Dan, have you ever wanted an app that collates all the scores and news from your favourite teams in the whole of Europe, Dan? Have you ever wanted that?
Is a constant need of mine, mate, because there's always news. That's the thing, is that we love this game. We love the industry of football because it's ever changing, mate, and you need a place to keep up with it all.
And we have that place exactly for you guys.
Do,
it's OneFootball. Guys, this app is genuinely, it's life-changing.
It's great because I use it. So it's great because it's where I pull the stats from for the podcast. So it's like there's all that new stuff as well, but you can track all of the players' stats from like across Europe for all the different leagues, for continental football as well. It's a dream. It's a dream. And the best part, mate, is it's free.
It's free, and guys, it would help support the channel massively if you check that OneFootball using the link in the description down below. We promise you guys won't be disappointed. Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. It's transfer rumour mill time. You guys know the score by now. You've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail. I am here, as always, with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, I think it's fair to say, I'm speaking on your behalf here, that you're doing good after seeing that we're linked with this name, mate.
Yes, mate. Is this 3 days of consecutive podcasts?
I think it may be 4.
Wow, we're on an absolute tear at the moment, mate. You can tell it's January. We're like Bublé. You know how like he defrosts every Christmas. January comes and we just come out of the ice and just bang, 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 bang. About 5 consecutive just transfer rumour mills all the time. And you know I love them, mate. You know I love them. They're my favourite to do.
That's it, man. And it's an exciting player to discuss today. Borussia Mönchengladbach's DENIS Zakaria, of course. Now, this is a name that's been bandied about by the Mail. It's an interesting one because I think that there's a bit of a situation at Gladbach where they've got a few first teamers who are approaching now with 6 months left on their deal. You know, you're looking at Matthias Ginter and Zakaria also falls into that category. And he's been at the club for a long time. They've been playing semi-regular Champions League football here and there. And Dennis himself had a wonderful Euros campaign with Switzerland. Danny was a player that I think, if a lot of people over in England don't necessarily watch the Bundesliga, I think he may have caught your eye in the summer because I think he had a very good tournament. And you know, that's the best thing about these tournaments. You know, sometimes you get flashes in the pan like Ochoa from the 2014 World Cup, and you never see him again. But that's the beauty of international football, is it unearths so many gems of players that, you know, you may not have had your eyes on. And Zakaria is certainly one of them that I think, you know, as I said, mate, if you don't watch the Bundesliga, you may not know about this guy, but he's a fantastic midfielder, and it's a very exciting name that we've been linked with, you know, quite early on in the window as well.
Yeah, exactly, mate. I think it's one of those where it's always interesting to give an insight into the kind of profile that these players are. Zakaria is he's a midfielder that you love to watch. He's one of these really all-action midfielders that's full of running, strong in the tackle, is very much got a goal contribution in the locker. The amount of distances that he covers, you know, he topped Gladbach's charts. The amount of, you know, I think in 1920 he covered almost 100 kilometers across the season. He had the team's second highest successful pass rate, one of the most duels, and only 5 other Gladbach players enjoyed more touches of the ball than Zakaria, who are Stefan Leiner and Marcus Thuram. So, you know, he's right up there with one of the more influential players in a team that has really competed quite highly in Germany. And then he had a really stellar tournament with Switzerland in the summer. You know, they really overachieved in that competition, got quite far into the tournament, you know, had a lot of upsets as well once they got into the knockout stages. So he's someone that's really sort of exploded onto the radar of Europe's elite. And so it's really quite encouraging that we're seeing ourselves linked with these names, mate.
Sure. And, you know, he's come from young boys who, you know, every once in a while they are producing a player or two that does seem to make it, you know, in one of the top 5 leagues on the continent. I think if you look, one of his teammates from the 2016 season was Kevin Mbabu, who's at Wolfsburg, who, again, if you watch the Bundesliga, you'll know about this guy. You know, quite a good player. I think he was also at Newcastle, Mbabu. I think they let him go. He was one from their academy. So he's found his way back to playing, you know, decent football. Wolfsburg are having a great season this season. But, you know, that's a player that we're not linked with, so we won't talk about too much. But no, Zakaria, he's a player that Villa ultimately needs, I think. Now, you look, he's 25 years old. He very much fits the profile. He is, I think you could consider probably one of maybe the top 30 in that position in the world. if you're being generous, I think it fits the profile of what Villa need. Villa need right now an enforcer in the defensive midfield that will really anchor the midfield. And I think, if anything, that's only sort of the need for that has only been personified after the Brentford performance yesterday. Dan, we're recording this the day after, of course. So, when without Marvelous, I think it's fair. Dougie's an 8. He's not a 6. Villa need a 6. And Zakaria is the 6. And with 6 months left on his deal, he's free to speak to clubs and discuss pre-contract arrangements. A lot of the time as well, if you put a cheeky bid in January, say, listen, Gladbach, we'll offer you however much, take him now, take him off your hands so you don't lose him for free. Some good business can be done here. There isn't a fee that's being bandied about, Dan, but I can't imagine it's going to cost anything more than £15 million. Just looking at how the market's going, I think, the market's still very much depreciated, I think, and players like this who, are most definitely at the top of their game, Dan. But with 6 months left on their deal, and just the fact, with how COVID's been for the past 2 years and finances for football clubs, we spoke about it a lot in the summer, Dan. If you've got money to spend like Villa do, then you can really take advantage of the transfer market, not only now, but I think for the next 1 or 2 years as well, while clubs are still recovering.
Yeah, for sure, mate, for sure. And there's a lot of clubs that are looking at Zakaria, which is why, as I said, Europe's elite. There obviously are the links in Germany, as there always are. He was signed for Mönchengladbach to replace Mahmoud Dahoud, who left Mönchengladbach for Dortmund. That is reportedly another option that's on for him, that he could follow him to go to Dortmund as well. Obviously, Bayern Munich always linger around these talents that emerge in German for the lower league. When I say lower league, just lower than Bayern Munich. And then obviously there are links in the Premier League as well. Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal. I've seen Everton banded about as well. And, we've seen Villa really nestle ourselves amongst these teams in terms of competing for these players. We spoke a lot last summer about Julian Alvarez, a player from River Plate, who we seemingly got really close to signing. He's looking like he's about to sign for Manchester United. So it's good to be involved with these pools of players. And, you mentioned sort of the position that he plays. He is that sort of all-action 6. In terms of the sort of the way that he plays, he's got these sort of languid, long limbs that sort of has seen him likened to a Vieira or a Pogba. He's that kind of playing style and stuff like that. So he's really entertaining to watch. We've spoken for a long time about the podcast about giving a bit of height and a bit of presence in the midfield, because for all of Dougie's and Marvelous's ability, they can't quite necessarily match up to a more stronger physical defensive midfielder. Sometimes all that it takes is just matching those kind of players. I always reference when West Ham came to Villa Park and played us off, it's just because we couldn't match them physically. And I think getting these kind of players into the squad is important, because, eventually you can have all the technical ability in the world, but sometimes it just comes up to those physical battles in midfield. And Zakaria is the kind of player that helps you win them.
Absolutely. And he is a safe bet. And he, more often than not, is so solid when he's protecting the back four. 90% pass accuracy so far this season, which is, it almost seems wrong to reference that, but it's so important. It genuinely, having it up there, that's very important to me. 93% accurate passes in his own half. Again, if he's playing, facing his goal, if he has to go backwards, if he's marshalling that midfield, if Villa are sitting deep, then it's someone who you can rely on for Villa to play out from the back and to really get things going. And again, I will remember to put the heat map in this time. You can see this guy is a 6. This guy is undoubtedly a 6, and it fits the profile of what Villa needs. I know a lot of people, we were talking about Glenn Kamara only a few days ago. Well, I was talking about Glenn Kamara, a few days ago, Dan. Being 26, I think people weren't necessarily convinced. He's not done it at a higher level than obviously he's played Europa League football, but in the SPFL, which is understandable concern. But we've seen with Zakaria, he's doing it in the top 5 league. He's doing it in the Champions League. And ultimately, he feels like a safe bet, I think. If you can get this guy in, it's absolutely wonderful. SofaScore have him valued at around 29 million euros. So if you can get him for around that 15 in January, even 3 in the summer, it's a no-brainer. And I think, we can really sell a project to him. And hopefully, if anything, of course, at Manchester United and Arsenal, and Everton, these teams that you mentioned all have their pulls down. But for someone like Zakaria being a midfielder, coming and working with Steven Gerrard could be a really exciting prospect.
Yeah, for sure, mate. For sure. I think that Steven, when you talk about the names that we were linked with when we were replacing the manager, Steven Gerrard felt like a big name. He felt like a bit of a glamour signing. I think that was what some Villa fans were slightly doubtful of. But, there is always the positive side of that, and that players will, he's more recognisable for players abroad than Dean Smith. And whilst Dean Smith had a very respectable pull, I think a surprising one. I think it actually, when we came up into the Premier League, it surprised a lot of Villa fans, the names that we were linked with, the players that were encouraged by Dean to come and sign for Aston Villa. Stevie will take that to another level just because of the name that he is. He's already had a lot of big names in Germany sort of links with him and reference him. I was just looking online before we came on, and Lothar Matthäus, arguably the greatest defensive midfielder of all time, likens him to a young Tony Kroos in his playing. He says he's the guy back have found a pearl. Jan Sommer, likened him to Platini and Zidane. So this guy is being linked with being spoken about by the biggest names in football already. So to have that interest from Steven Gerrard is going to be a huge ego boost. Obviously the clubs that he's being linked with have respectable managers of their own. So we're not alone in that department. But I think he's a main man at Gladbach, and he you see these players often want to retain that. You've seen a lot of good players come from these teams and just become one of another in a big squad. Someone that comes in and plays that position from time to time. If you look at the Bayern Munich links, for example, the six is a position that they're all very, very strong in. You're not going to come over and just easily muscle a Joshua Kimmich out of that spot. United are someone that are desperate for someone in that position. But again, with the situation at United with Rangnick, and he's an interim until they get, you had an interim, which was then sacked, and he had another interim, which is Rangnick to the end of the season. You don't know the manager that's going to come in. That's a risky position for a player to sign into. So quickly, you might see Villa start to rise up the pecking order if there are some truth in these rumours.
I think it's safe to say it's one that we can all be excited about, Dan. It's definitely one that I've been excited about, and I know you have too. Speaking about it off air, he's just a wonderful footballer, and that's what we live for on these transfer rumour mills. We're here, regardless of whether it happens or not. We're going to break it down. We're going to tell you exactly where he fits in the side, and that's that's that really. I think it's one that we can get excited about if we are serious in sort of flexing our muscles. I don't think people are talking about the season being a write-off already. Steven Gerrard has, we talk about Dean Smith coming in and the remit and us expecting, maybe not to get promoted the first year, that it would happen the second year. Dean Smith would have been briefed with gaining promotion that year, and Steven Gerrard will similarly have been briefed with at least a top 10 finish, push for Europe, cup run. These things will have been mentioned in the brief, and signing players like this only, helps him ultimately, hopefully, achieve that goal by the end of the season. But this season is by no means a write-off. One bad performance in the Steven Gerrard era, we cannot be looking forward to next season already. So hopefully, a player like Zakaria coming in can help elevate Villa to the next level. I've seen a lot of discussion on Twitter, Dan, about Villa lacking elite players in the team. Maybe we've got Martinez and the shots from McGinn. And I think ultimately you can also put Ollie and Danny in that bracket as well. There's how important they are for the team. But getting another one in like Zakaria, mate, ultimately, that helps Villa just reach another level, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I was watching Stevie's presser from yesterday, and he was saying there's no grit in there, there's no fight. Nobody was showing the right aggression in that defeat yesterday. And so I think ultimately that's an attack on the engine room. We know Stevie likes to press, but ultimately that great aggression, it has to come first and foremost from your midfield. That's where you win those kind of battles. I think it's despite the fact we have a lot of players in the midfield, I think the only criticism is that perhaps they're all of a very similar profile. We're quite set out in that 8 position, especially now Ramsey's fallen. We expected Ramsey to come into the squad as a 10. He's sort of fallen into that 8 category, and now so that you have McGinn and Sanson and Ramsey and Luiz, we've got that constant, is he a 6 or an 8? He's falling into the defensive midfielder role, but we've all wanted to see him push forward higher up into that position. You've got Carney Chukwuemeka as well, looking to come and stake a claim. So I think those 6 and 10 positions, I think the 10 position is another one we need to strengthen, but I'm sure we'll have a time to discuss that rumour at a later date, mate. And when Marv is out with the AFCON, we're really going to need some strength in that defensive midfield position. So I think it's something that we're probably going to see a few more links into this position. And if they're of the same ilk as DENIS ZAKARIA, mate, I think we're going to be onto a winner.
Absolutely, mate. So yeah, that wraps up this transfer rumour mill, guys. It's a short one, but I feel like we've packed as much information in as possible for you guys. Let's hope that this deal can get over the line. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit a like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more. And also don't forget to check out OneFootball. The link will be in the top line of the description. Up the Villa.